Fall migration is pretty much when birds move from their breeding grounds to their wintering grounds, and it spans a pretty broad array of time. It's not just in fall. For some birds, like shorebirds, it starts as soon as early July, and for other birds, like certain kinds of diving ducks, it'll continue until mid to late December.
The pipe-billed grebe kind of swims like a duck does, but when you look closer, you see it has a different kind of bill. It's a completely different kind of bird than a duck, and it catches the fish around here. It catches especially small catfish. We'll see them dive underwater and disappear for 10 or 20 seconds, and then they'll come up with a little baby catfish in their beak. Sometimes it'll be a bigger catfish in their beak and they'll have trouble swallowing it.
But the hot spot of fall migration that most people know about is September, when all the warblers and all the other passerines are moving through.
The birds we find around here year-round, a lot of them are the ones that you'll find at your feeders in the winter. There'll be cardinals, chickadees, downy woodpeckers, house sparrows over by the buildings. Other kinds of woodpeckers are around here, like flickers. Sometimes they'll spend a whole year. So it's not too different from what you'd find around your house if you count the birds that are here all year round.
Great blue herons can stay up until they can stay into winter at Columbus Park though. They stick around as long as there's open water. They're pretty flexible birds when it comes to moving out for the season, and some have probably left already, but it varies a lot with certain birds. Some, like warblers, are on a pretty strict schedule because they've got to make sure that they can have enough fuel to go south, but great blue herons can tolerate the cold. They just need open water to fish in. So warblers are a pretty diverse group of birds. They're all fairly small. None of them are much larger than a house sparrow, especially the ones that you'd see around here. Most of them are around the size of a goldfinch, and a lot of the more common ones that pass through here, especially during fall migration, are blackpoll warbler, American redstart, magnolia warbler. I could try to imitate a warbler chip note to give you an idea of what to look for that. Oftentimes it's like some species, like yellow rumps, which are coming through, give a more harsh, emphatic chip, like and then other ones give this one I'm not going to be able to imitate as well, but a softer, kind of higher pitched chip like blackpoll warblers and Tennessee warblers, kind of like. And black and white warbler is a pretty interesting one because it's got a very different foraging habit than the rest. It acts more like a nuthatch than a warbler in some ways. Yellow rump warblers, in the next couple days to a week, depending on how the winds are, will become the most abundant bird at Columbus Park, probably. This is part of September where all 5 spotted thrushes, 4 of which are in the genus Catharus, are possible to get here. The most common one is Swainson's thrush this time of year, followed by gray-cheeked thrush. More earlier in the season, but continuing into now, are veeries, which also breed in the area, and wood thrush, which wood thrush continue on later. They're just generally less abundant than the rest. Gray catbirds, on the other hand, a few of them are still around. The vast majority have left. Well, maybe not vast majority, but a lot of them have left. There are a few that are still around, and that's a species that, although they primarily go to like the southern US for wintering, occasionally one will stick around. Yeah, song sparrows are still around, and that is another species like the catbird that can spend the winter, but song sparrows spend it probably more regularly, and they'll oftentimes spend some time in the winter out in the kind of fallow prairie restoration type things in the middle of the golf course. At this time of year, American goldfinches are finishing up their breeding season. They breed much later than a lot of the other birds because they need to wait for things to kind of go to seed more for them to get an ample food supply. So that's a kind of interesting thing where the biology of a bird is very much tied to its surroundings. The hawks in the Chicago region, the main ones that breed in the county are also ones that winter in the county. That would be Coopers and red-tailed hawks. Occasionally in the city parks in the winter we get red-shouldered hawks wintering, and they are rare breeders in Cook County, but that's something to look out for in winter. If you see something that looks kind of like a red tail but a bit smaller, if it's a young one. If it's an adult, they look pretty splendid with bold red and black patterning on the back, and that's something that could come in, I don't know, late September, early October, I'd say, is when they move. But one thing that you can use if you hear warblers and aren't seeing them is try to use a method referred to as pishing, which imitates general bird mob calls. This works all around the world because it sounds like an angry bird, and when a bird hears an angry bird, they want to join in and fight whatever hawk or whatever it's found. So it's pretty much just a raspy, like, and everyone pishes in different ways. There are different things you can do, especially if like there's a bird in the brush that you just want to pop up for a second, like kind of like a squeaky thing, like can get birds up and about. But yeah, that's a very good way to see warblers in the fall. That's like, I'd say once you learn that, you're gonna double the number of warblers you see in the fall, if not more, because whole flocks will come into you that you can, prior to that, you just heard in the top of a tree or something.
Well, you'll just find interesting birds. One nice thing is there'll be fewer leaves on the trees. When there are leaves on the trees, it's harder to see what's here. So you'll get a better look at whatever's here. And even in the dead of winter, we'll still find like 15 different kinds of birds in the park. So you just have to get out and listen and look, and there'll be birds here all year round.